小时候就是有回我姑妈骑电瓶车，载我跟我表弟，我坐在那后面，然后我想踢我那个表弟，结果踢过去，然后收回来没收住，就卡进那个后面。
The weekend is probably quite comfy. I mean, if you don't get a friend whose legs are broken 200 kilometers away in Lake District Park and urgently needs surgery. Barrow in fairness. Until now, I've never seen a place named with two hyphens. A coastal town, remote, near Lancaster. As I stared at its name on the map, my brain seemed to shrink, and all I knew was that reaching this place, 200 kilometers away, required a 4-hour train ride, while the return journey would take 6. Perhaps this was an elixir that those who two hyphens bestow upon the town. I had to wake up at 6 on Saturday morning to catch the 7:35 train from Glasgow Central, transfer at Carlisle for 40 minutes, and then ride the Northern Line for 22 stops to reach that town. The surgery was scheduled for this Saturday or Sunday, at least that's what my friends say, but I suspect it might also happen next Monday, next Tuesday, Wednesday, the following Saturday or Sunday. The timing depending on whether the hospital faced any emergencies and the order of patients in line. The patients lay scattered across various floors in different beds, and the list recorded by the nurses helped them to stand up and queue up. At 11:35 a.m., I arrive at this town, 200 kilometers away, with a name that contains two hyphens, and board the bus to the hospital. The passengers were primarily elderly, and they do not speak to one another. Comparing the atmosphere on this bus to that of the last bus on a match day at Old Trafford, it's like having a cup of hot dark tea outside the Amundsen Scott Research Station. I lean against the left window, gazing at the scenery of the town. The garden walls were made of red bricks, and the houses followed the same style. Red houses with black painted roofs, white houses with black painted roofs, and red and white houses with black and painted roofs. They could paint their houses any color they liked, such as deep blue. Then the bus passed by a vast grassy field where a middle-aged man played with two running dogs. Finally, stopping at the terminal. Getting off, I found myself next to the hospital where the unfortunate body was staying. Though the town is called Barrow in fairness, it's interesting that the names of these facilities here rarely use the full name. Some include only Barrow, while others only Furness, like the hospital before me, Furness General Hospital. Upon exiting the elevator, I could see the sign for Ward 5 with Bed 2 located inside. About 5 minutes later, my eyes were on that pathetic leg.
就是小时候就是有回我姑妈骑电瓶车，载我跟我表弟，我坐在那后面，然后我想踢我那个表弟，结果踢过去，然后收回来没收住，就卡进那个后面的那个什么轮辐里了。然后它这就是你看，这其实一直都有那个当时钢筋那个什么 轮子的那个钢筋搞进去，然后后来反正就是经常崴脚。初中不是崴了一次大的，就有回去放元旦还是什么，他们去逛公园，然后他们出去玩了，然后我在家里做作业，然后做的累了出去逛公园，然后一没注意就从那个楼梯上绊下来。
After confirming that he was not having surgery today, I ordered fast food delivered for him. Then, visiting hours at the hospital was ended. But I still got plenty of time left, so I prepared to do the first thing I want to do in Barrow in Venice. Pay a visit to the seaside. To catch a glimpse of the sea here, one will follow these steps. First, have a lasagna at an Italian restaurant 15 minutes walk from the shore. Then, cross a bridge devoid of pedestrians. Pass through a factory with no one around, and finally, arrive at a small cliff.
阳光下，夜雾中，风雨里不畏惧。
Tides, lighthouses, and distant lights flickering on shapes across the horizon. Looking down, tiny shields glimmering in the moonlight. None of these sights existed. When I reached the edge of the small cliff, all I saw was an endless light and a path of grass swirling in the wind below. Barrow is surrounded by a long island, like silkworm. Thus, what I always saw was never the sea, but merely a ravine. Perhaps the water was salty. I only discovered all of this after exhausting myself and studying the map again. I began to hurry back, desperate to catch the last bus, returning to that guest house which had rooms similar to an American West film directed by Italy. Eight hours later, as I stood in Lancaster Station listening to the chaotic yet rhythmic chimes, I recalled that at 9:30 a.m., when I learned my friend had been moved into the operating room, I was enjoying a typical English breakfast in the guest house dining room. It was then that I decided to take the opportunity to do the second thing I had planned in Barrow. Visit a wild animal park.
It's a huge morning of news, so thank you very much indeed for talking about all sorts of issues. Now we do just have an update for you.
I had got used to necessary bus journeys required to get anywhere in this town, so I stood at the counter, waiting for the hourly buses on Sunday. Along the way, I passed houses of various colors, expensive pastures, and a cemetery. Moments later, I stood at the entrance of the zoo, completely empty. Later, I learned that they had closed the zoo just a week before and relocated all the animals. I lingered at the gate, considering finding a place to sit, but the general cold quickly persuaded me otherwise. I still saw various animals. Their photos correctly nailed to the outer wall of the zoo entrance. I saw neither the sea nor the elephant sitting on the ground. My legs were intact, yet I found myself unable to move. At 1:45 p.m., the unfortunate fellow was wheeled back to Ward 5, returning to his designated bed too. His leg was wrapped in thick plaster, and the second thing he said upon seeing me was, "It's starting to hurt." After setting him in, I had to make my way back immediately, as it would take 6 hours to return, including a bus replacement in Lancaster. After getting off in Lancaster, I heard the Jimmy. I was certain something was wrong with the clock as it continued to ring, essentially becoming a massive wind chimney. I followed the sound step by step, distancing myself from Barrow in Venice, leaving behind the sea that could never be seen, and departing from the animals that didn't require to migrate by themselves. But the unfortunate man could not escape his broken leg, just as the train car accurately and relentlessly crushed every sleeper. And I also could not escape the futility that awaited me in Barrow.